Hi friends, and welcome to another episode of Moment to Pause. I am Faye, your host, and I am so excited that you are here in this episode. Today we are going to talk about a topic that feels a little bit mysterious but incredibly powerful: chakras. Maybe you heard the word before in your yoga class or while scrolling online, but what are chakras really? Why are they matter? And why understanding them it helps us in our everyday life. In today's show, we are going to breaking it down in a way that feels more understandable and easier to connect. We are going to explore where the idea of chakras come from and why and what does it mean in yogic philosophy, and how tuning into them can help us bring more balance and awareness into our body and mind. So take this episode as a gentle introduction. No fuss, no overwhelm, no jargon, just a conversation about energy and awareness and what is really happening in our body, in us. So let's take a deep breath, settle in, and let's explore the wisdom of chakras with our special guest today, Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time in this moment to pause.
Thank you. It's a very nice opportunity to connect with some of your listeners. So, I'm delighted that you've invited me to this conversation.
Thank you. Richard, could you please tell us about your journey?
Well, mine's quite a long story because I'm an old dude, but the fact of the matter is that I actually started meditation when I was at university, and I didn't really know anything about yoga. I was basically overdoing my lifestyle, got a bit depressed. Somebody put me onto Transcendental Meditation, and I just learnt that, took it away, and have used it for the rest of my life. It's been fantastic. But actually as I progressed, I started to take more of an interest in, well, what is this? Where did it come from? It's great technique, but actually what does it mean? What, and so on. And it was through that and that I started to go a little bit behind and find out, well, where did the meditation come from? And of course, it comes from the Vedic tradition.
Yep.
And it was through that I was introduced to the idea of yoga, and particularly Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And it was quite interesting. In the early days, the 8 limbs of yoga were often talked about as steps. You know, you've got to do this and then you've got to do that. And after about 5 years, you could do some asanas and eventually you might get to samadhi, you know. And already in Transcendental Meditation, you're actually experiencing samadhi. You're going straight to samadhi without all those steps. But our teacher was saying, but actually all these limbs of yoga are really valuable if you move them all together.
Yes.
And so I started to learn about yoga, about the asanas to start with. And gradually then I learned some pranayama. And a little bit later on, I went to learn some of the sort of the 6th, 7th and 8th limb, which is more about dhyan and letting go and allowing the slide into samadhi. And particularly the Patanjali talks about the siddhis, which are really where we're using our attention and taking it to the subtlest level and then having a thought. And the dhyan, dharan, and then dhyan takes you into the samadhi with a thought.
Yeah.
And so I started to learn the siddhis, what's called the TM siddhis, which incidentally producing very much higher brainwave coherence than even the TM, which is very, very nice. But I really see it now as an integrated path. It's an integrated way of life to do some meditation, to do some breath work, and to actually understand the wholeness of yoga. And yoga is about, I started off, okay, we've got to do press-ups or downward dogs or whatever it is. But actually yoga is about union. It's about the union of mind, body and spirit. And ultimately, in its fullest extent, the integration of mind, body, spirit and the universe, totality.
Yeah.
So that's what yoga is about, to yoke or to bring it all together. And so the experience was really about moving in the direction of getting more of that samadhi, which some see as the end of the path, But actually my understanding of it is, and how I was taught, is that we can see the mind and indeed totality as like an ocean. So you've got waves on the surface of the ocean, like we have thoughts in the surface of our mind.
The fluctuations, yeah.
Fluctuations, that's right. And then the deep part of the ocean is like the deep part of the mind, and the source of thought is like the ocean bed. So the deep source of thought, and a little bubble rises from deep at the bottom of the ocean, and it rises up and breaks into the surface awareness. So we have this like, oh, I've just had a great idea. So what samadhi is about actually taking the attention from the gross and surface level of life to more and more subtle levels of experience, until eventually we transcend thought or go beyond thought or sensation. If you have your attention on your body or your chakras, then you can experience them at a gross level, or the chakras are already subtle, but you can go even subtler and subtler and subtler. And ultimately, everything in the universe can be traced back to the source. And it's finding the source in the body, in the stretch, in the mantra, in the yantra, whatever you're working with, you'll find that you'll ultimately get to source. And what's really important is that we understand that that's what samadhi is about. It's actually getting to the source, to that totality.
What are the chakras?
Okay. So my understanding of the chakras is, and this is really coming from various ancient texts, but their chakra literally means wheel, and it's like a swirl of energy. And it's a swirl, there are swirls of energy at certain points in the body, and the body has subtler levels in it. We've got the gross level, the muscles, the cells, and all that sort of stuff. But as you go down into the more subtle levels, like going down into the deeper ocean, we experience more and more subtle levels of the physiology. And it may be that at certain points we start to notice that there's a subtle flow, particularly when we're doing breath work, pranayama, you feel the prana coming as well as the breath. And so the chakras are really where some subtle energy starts to meet. And it's almost like a control system or a junction point between the physical body and the subtlest levels of consciousness. And it's that point that we would like to get to, and to understand and maybe release blockages that are there, such that nature and the purity of that wholeness can flow through into our feelings, emotions, and ultimately into our physical body.
Absolutely. And how do you think these chakras are going to affect our body and our everyday life?
That's an interesting question, because it's a little bit like, well, how does your arm affect your body?
Yeah.
You know, these are an intimate part of our body, in the same way as an arm is, or your brain. And so what we're doing by understanding them or experiencing them is just bringing our attention to subtler levels of awareness in the body and in that system, such that we can release the stress that might be accumulated there. We can nourish them, but more to the point, we can go right through to the source. And by having the various practices of yoga, meditation, and so on, bringing attention to things is all very, very purifying, provided we're actually just taking it easy and not straining, not focusing too much on this, not straining to do this. We really want to go to the silent level of the body and the chakras, the breath, the asanas. When you're doing an asana, very powerful to have your attention on the stretch, such that you experience the bliss. You know, remember that sukh, stiram asana, the bliss in the asana, the pleasantness. Yeah.
Beautiful. And if you want to break the chakras down, how many chakras do we have in our body?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Conventional wisdom says about 7. But if you go back to the ancient texts, there's a bit of variety in this. Some of them have got a few more. And there's sets of energy. And really, it's a bit like the nervous system. How many nodes do you have in your nervous system? Okay, you've got big nodes, you've got a brain. But actually, there are subsets as well. We've even got a little circuit in our heart that's like a little brain they've discovered now. So you can actually think with a certain part of your heart. So same with, as I understand it, and this is my own view of the chakras, is that they are really also connected to the nadis. And the nadis are a bit like the meridian points in Chinese medicine. There are flowing points of energy where prana and life flows through the body, as does blood and lymph and all that. And so the nadis also connect to these chakras. So they're like nodes where the energy flows in and out from the universe. And some of them have chakras that actually above the head, like, there may be 2 or 3 chakras above the head that are in the subtle body or in the subtle energy. Some place the heart chakra in the middle of the chest. Some actually see it more over the heart. And so there's different views of it.
Wow.
But I think that there's even, like, if you take Agnyakya and Vishuddhi, there's also one in the palate, another one. So there's different, and they may be smaller sub-elements. So they're part of a whole system. But there are 7 major ones that are accepted today by most users.
Okay. All right. And if there is any blockage, how do we notice that if there is a blockage in the energy in our chakras?
Well, I guess it depends on how you do that. I've done quite a bit on Ayurveda, and I'm not an Ayurvedic practitioner, but I've studied the Nadi Vigyan, which is where you can feel the pulse, and you'll feel in the pulse, on each finger there are 5 pulses, and each pulse relates to Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and then there are sub-elements of those in the like Apana Vata and so on. So you can, by feeling the pulse, you can feel where there may be blockages or imbalances in the body, and that can be related to chakras as well. But also it's possible to even tune in to the chakras and maybe feel a blockage in yourself. Some people that are psychic apparently can see them. Oh, wow. So you can look at somebody and say, oh yes, I can see this person's kind of blocked in their chest. And you might meet somebody. Sometimes, for example, I met somebody recently who had lost their husband. And I'd never met her before, but as soon as she came in, I could feel this grief or sadness in her. And it was a little while before it came out. But there's some blockage, some energy that's not flowing there. And we just sense this. We just sense that there's something's not quite right there.
Yeah.
So how do you, I personally, in my practice, I actually don't put a lot of attention on the chakras. I have done at times with oils, for example, using chakra oils. And if you get, there's different aromatherapy oils that are really powerful. If you put, the one on your Vishuddhi, you'll notice that the energy is changing. I like the idea of, that there's some not grounded enough, then we do grounding asanas. Or we've got some digestion issue and maybe the chakra there is not lively enough, or it's a bit dull. It's kind of interesting. There's quite a lot of dimensions to this, but in Ayurveda, you would feel that there's some lightness or what we call vata in the pulse, for example, of someone that's kind of blowing in the wind. Or you might feel the fire of pitta, and you'll know that actually, well, that chakra is doing pretty well, and maybe it's overblown. So you can see that side of it as well. But I think I don't know, in my experience is, though, that the critical thing, and I loved all of your analogy about releasing the stress like that, because this is exactly how it is. As the mind settles down and the body settles down, and maybe through asanas, we actually release stored stress. And I've found, I've been teaching actually Transcendental Meditation for about 30 years, and I've taught hundreds and hundreds of people TM, and occasionally we'll teach people that have got like post-traumatic stress disorder, or they've been through some really heavy stuff. And the meditation allows them to settle down quite naturally to that point of absolute silence, which is just pure awareness. But quite often that in itself, the body goes into a state of rest twice as deep as deep sleep, and it allows the stress to be released from everywhere. It might be in muscles, it might be in the body, it might be in the chakras, could be in the mind. Stored emotion, stored stress is held in the body. And we quite often see after a few days with people that have been exposed to a lot of stress, then they can start releasing stress. They may have the tears, they may have strange pains in their body that are a product of the process of releasing stress. And that stress can be caught in the subtle levels of the body or in the gross levels of the body. I had a very good example once where I was teaching a man, and he learned the TM, and with TM you learn it over a period of about an hour to start with the first instruction. And he went really well, deep. And then when he came back the next day, there's 4 days that we go through. On the second day, he'd been at home practicing and he'd done really well. So he said, I keep getting, every time I meditate, I get this real pain in my elbow. So he said, and then I said, well, is it now? No, it doesn't hurt. It's only when I'm meditating. So he'd meditate and he'd go down, 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 having very nice experiences of stillness. And then he'd come out. But he said, this pain is really bad. It feels like almost a knife in my elbow. You know? And he went like, so I thought, oh, well, maybe we'll see how it goes. After 3 or 4 days, he was still getting this pain. And then we taught a few asanas, not particularly for that, but just loosening the whole body up. Yeah. But the combination after about, it was about a week, he came back and I said, how's the pain going? He said, actually, it's completely gone. The combination of the rest and the movement and so on. And then he said something which I wish he'd told me to start with, but he said, the other thing is, he said that I can now move my arm and straighten it in a way that I haven't been able to for 15 years since I had a motorbike accident. So he didn't talk about that like it's clearly, but he wasn't getting pain before he came to meditate, but he hadn't been able to straighten his arm. So now this deep meditation and the movement and so on, combination is really powerful for releasing stress.
Exactly.
The stress is released and he's experiencing pain during that stress release. Yeah. But then it had gone and he got full movement of his arm back, which everybody said he would never get.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of examples I've had of people like that releasing stress in a big way. It might be a big tear session. Yeah. And then suddenly they think, oh, goodness, I feel so much better. Yeah. The heart chakra's been opened. There's been some flow, whatever it is, then there's suddenly the energy's flowing.
Yeah. Let's talk about what is TM or Transcendental Meditation.
I was at university, I was not in a good place, so I was a bit depressed and just flat. My friend told me to go and learn TM, and I did. And so within a few days, I felt better than I had for months. And within about 2 months, I felt better than I'd ever had in my life. Yeah. Like it opened all the energy and I felt like fresh and alive and stuff. So that was, and because it's such an effortless practice, you literally sit down in a chair anywhere, close your eyes, and you have a mantra, which is like a special sound that's chosen for you. And it just settles you down. And within 2 or 3 minutes, your body is in a state of rest deeper than the deepest sleep, very deep, low oxygen consumption. And that allows your body to get fantastic rest. And your mind clears because all the thoughts go and just experiencing pure awareness. It's like that ocean floor of yourself is just your pure awareness with no thoughts, nothing, just I am, aham. And that's so good that you don't need anything else, because when you come out, you think, yeah, that was really great.
Go back.
And then at the end of the day, when you're exhausted, we recommend that you do it like 15 or 20 minutes twice a day. It's no problem to find 15 minutes to go and sit somewhere quiet and just do that. And you just wipe away the day. You get rid of the fatigue in the body. Yeah. You enjoy your evening. And then what happens? Oh, you sleep better. Yeah. Really much better sleep. Yeah. So you get rid of stress in the mind-body continuum, and the whole body comes to life. Yeah. And a lovely analogy our teacher Maharishi used to use was it's a little bit like taking a tree where all of the leaves are going a bit withered, and you could take each leaf and kind of prop it up, and you can hold this branch up that's wilting, or you can water the roots of the tree, and the whole thing will just come right from within itself. And so by touching base with that experience of our deep nature, and it's there not only at the source of our mind, but the source of our body, at the source of our chakras, at the source of everything in our mind body is this pure awareness. And it's so nourishing that it's like the DNA of the human being. It's like where all the code that holds perfect order is. And so when you touch base with that, the whole tree comes to life.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And it's a nice analogy.
It's amazing. And you said that you know Maharaji. Did you say?
Maharishi.
Maharishi, yes.
I was around in the 70s when Maharishi was very active and he came to Australia a few times and taught people here. And we used to get him on the phone and ask him questions.
Oh, really?
And that was really a great buzz, yeah.
Tell us about the experience.
Well, I had the one that I can still remember really was a question. Maharishi described he said 7 states of consciousness, and they're there in the Vedas. Normally we have waking, dreaming, and sleeping.
Yeah.
They're quite different. The brain waves tell us a different story.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as you start to meditate and experience this samadhi or silence, they call that the 4th state, or turiya, and it's transcending, the transcendental consciousness. Yes. With regular practice, that becomes stabilized. So even when you go back out into activity, you still notice the silence of totality underneath everything. So you become more stable, less thrown off balance. And with a bit more practice, you start to notice some of those more subtle things, like the subtle energy, maybe in the chakras in the body, subtle energies in nature. Things seem to be more beautiful, colors more radiant. And he called this celestial perception or God consciousness sometimes, because that's also the experience of like, oh, there's a being associated with this perhaps. But the 8th state of consciousness, which is when you've been through all these, you finally get to a point of what he called unity. And this was the real treasure for me. I said to him, I don't really understand this. And when you get there, what's next? And he explained how when you look at a flower, to start with, you see the flower. And with this celestial perception, you start to notice how beautiful the flower is. Day by day, it seems more beautiful. And it may be arrayed with a heavenly light. That's what Wordsworth, the English poet, described. Beautiful. He was obviously having that celestial perception. Yeah. But you may notice that. But then as it progresses, you get more and more used to that. And eventually you get to the point where you look at the flower and you see this kind of radiance or energy or beauty in it. And then you realize deep down that energy in the flower is just the same as the source of yourself.
It's like a mirror.
It's actually just a sudden realization that I am that. I am that stuff of me that I'm experiencing in my meditation actually is underlying everything. It's in the flower. And he went on to describe how with further practice, you look at the flower and you experience the flower as part of yourself. But eventually you look at the flower and you start to realize that the wall behind and the chair and the whole universe is actually part of yourself. Yeah. And that's what he called unity consciousness. In traditional texts, sometimes called Brahman consciousness, because you're now fully identified with the totality of the universe. Yeah. And the ego by this time seems something that's really pretty irrelevant. It's there, but it helps you function in the world, but it's not a big deal.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I love that. We are not separate from the outside world. Everything outside is inside us.
It's beautiful in physics, in modern physics. You go down through the atoms, and I studied a lot of science as a kid in the university and so on. You go down through the atoms, subatomic particles, photons, quarks, all these little names they've got, hundreds of them. But when you get to the very subtlest of them, and remember, everything in the universe is made of those atoms. Yeah. Ourselves, the flower, everything. Exactly. When you get to the very subtlest particles, they seem to be nothing more than just a little wiggle in a field of totality. Yeah. And they call it the unified field sometimes, or string theory sees connections. But it's a mathematical thing that indicates very clearly in physics that the ground state of everything is a oneness that's got the code of everything in it. It's like the DNA of the universe is there in every atom, in every cell, in every thought. So it's not dissimilar to what the Vedic tradition says, that actually if you go back and track back to that source of yourself, you'll find that it's just the same as the source of the atom, the source of totality. And then we know, oh yes, what was that stuff Einstein talked about, that quirky stuff at a distance about how we can be two electrons can be connected to each other, to other sides of the universe, and they're still talking to each other. That quantum theory and so on, it all makes sense from a point of view of this wholeness. Wow! So it's very interesting that.
Yoga is a very, very big world, my friends.
Yes, indeed.
The more we talked about it, the more it gets bigger. And what we know about yoga and everything that comes with it in this yogic life is like a drop of water in the ocean again.
Yeah, it is. It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
I've also, just coming back to chakras a little bit, I've also spent about 20 years studying Vedic astrology.
Yeah.
And like the Ayurveda and astrology, in the traditional practices in India, these are intimately connected. Mm-hmm. So you can feel someone's pulse and you can find out about their feelings and emotions and their body.
Yeah.
You can also do that from their astrology. So you look at their astrology chart and you can see which chakra is out of balance. You can actually see which chakras are enlivened in their chart and which ones are more likely to have particular blockages at certain times in their life. Mm-hmm. And this is also a remarkable thing that some people, so depending on what you've inherited in this particular lifetime, is depending on actually how the shape of the chakras is. It may be that there's a lot of past life energy locked there as well. So it's not just about some stress you might have had last week. It might be still something that's hanging around from 2 lifetimes ago.
Wow. Our life is connected. It's definitely.
So you've got this time connection, infinite of time.
Yes.
And also obviously from the gross to the subtle, from the smallest to the largest. Mahanoraniyan, Mahataraniyan, from the smaller than the smallest and larger than the largest. Is all the same.
Wow. Wow, it's amazing. It's amazing knowledge that you're sharing with us, Richard.
Your listeners would be fast asleep, but I have actually just written a book, which will be, unfortunately I haven't published it yet, but it's actually telling my story as I went through the yoga and the many remarkable kind of things on the way. Yeah. But it's a very long story.
Okay.
If you're interested in this sort of stuff, it is fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's amazing. And let us know when it's going to be published. You traveled a lot as well, is that right?
So, it so happened that I was always interested in the land, and the connections to land are sometimes remarkable. You go to places and feel a kind of connection. Yeah. And I grew up in England and eventually by the sea in Wales, and I eventually went to study geology. Okay. So I got so interested in the land. My father was working in Saudi Arabia a lot, so we used to go to Saudi Arabia, and I fell in love with deserts. I went to the Sudan in Khartoum and the Omdurman and the desert there. Mm-hmm. And just as a little kid, 12, it just blew me away. Wow. And the expanse. Yeah, expanse. The silence sometimes in the land. And I feel that it's very interesting that some of what they call the desert religions have got this sense of just one God rather than many. Mm-hmm. Because when you get out of the desert, there's a oneness that is just palpable, that it's just everything seems to be just infinite. And especially at night when you sit, so I've spent my life traveling as a geologist out in remote areas, jungles, deserts all over the world. Yeah. And it's been an absolute joy to connect with the Mother Earth like that. I mean, as a scientist, you don't talk about that stuff with your colleagues because they would just think you're nuts. But the fact of the matter is, the earth is alive. Yes. And having that connection and experiencing that at certain places is a huge blessing. And it makes you realize all the more how vital it is that we tackle things like climate change, pollution, overpopulation, making sure we're in better balance than we are at the moment. So I learned a lot by traveling like that and seeing what's happening. And sometimes you find that you go to a place and you have like flashbacks that you've been there before, and that's real. I'm sure a lot of people have that, but yeah, I've had some really interesting experiences like that as well, all in my book.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What would you like listeners to hold on to from this conversation?
Yes, I think if I was going to say one thing, it would be about transcending. And I think there's a book, Vijnana Bhairava, 112 different ways to transcend, again, an ancient text. But really the thing is not to be caught too much up in the surface. And even all the techniques of doing yoga, running, whatever we're doing in life, all the work we do, sometimes it's good to have time for ourselves, and not just the quiet self, but the quietest part of ourself. And to find that is the real nectar of life. To find the quiet part of yourself and to realize that it's connected to everything else is just the blessing. So that would be what I would, and same with chakras, you can focus on a chakra and really focus, or you can let your attention be there and then let it just go to silence.
Exactly.
And it's that settling down that Vijnana Bharava describes.
And it opens up.
Where it opens up to totality.
Yeah.
Where individuality becomes totality. Yeah. So attention is a great thing, but actually let it go and let it merge into the whole.
That's amazing. And what's happening in 2026?
I've started teaching yoga, and I'm just finishing a course on yoga on Maharishi asanas, which is actually just about that. It's like, for someone that's been doing yoga, you'd understand it's kind of part way between yin and vinyasa.
Yeah.
But it's also about this attention, really having attention on the stretch or the feeling in the body, and resting between poses so that you go to that expanded state between each asana. So the body starts to get the experience of transcending and experiencing the consciousness in the body. So I'm unpacking that more. But I'm also taking an advanced course on Jyotish with the American College of Vedic Astrologers, which is going to be most of next year. And,
was it ever your focus, Jyotish study before?
Yeah, the Jyotish caught me about 20 years ago, and I'd studied Western astrology a little bit when I was at university, and I could see there was something in it, but it didn't really grab me. As soon as I started learning Jyotish, which works on the sidereal zodiac, it works on the star positions rather than Aries at the beginning of the equinox. And it's got some similarities, but as soon as I started, I was hooked. So that was sort of just became my path or my interest. As is yoga, but
yeah, definitely. And for someone who is very new in this, can you explain what Jyotish practice are like?
There are 40 branches of Vedic knowledge, like Gandharva Ved, the knowledge of music, Ayurveda, we've talked about the health system. There's things on grammar. But Jyotish is one of them, and it's the knowledge of past, present, and future. And it's the light. Jyoti literally means light. So it's bringing light onto the passage of time, kala, and understanding how those patterns flow through our lives. And it's also all of these 40 branches, if you go back to them, they're all designed to take you to moksha, to liberation. Yoga is one of those branches. Ayurveda, you can become enlightened by being an Ayurvedic doctor. You can become enlightened by studying Jyotish. And so each of these paths, it's like a path in itself. You couldn't possibly study all of them. And even Jyotish, they say, takes like 4 or 5 lifetimes to become a master.
Wow. 4 or 5 lifetimes.
They literally mean that.
Amazing,
But it's very beautiful how the patterns of life flow through us. I mean, it's related to the sun, the moon, the planets as we know them, and the stars. But just in the same way as we were talking earlier, through the chakras or through the asanas, you can settle down and experience totality. So you can experience totality in those patterns in your own life. So as you understand them, you start to realize, again, it's a bit like that story about the rose. You look at this pattern and you realize, wow, that is a universal pattern that's flowing through me at the moment. That wave on the ocean that's coming through me is just part of totality. And that's why I'm getting this effect, or I'm feeling this, or I want to do that. So it's very insightful, also practical. It can help you with... Unlike Western astrology, they have a lot of remedies. So if you've got a particular imbalance, so for the next 2 years, because of this transit or this particular period in your life, they will then recommend things that you can do that will actually help to balance that and minimize the effect or enhance the benefit of it. And that's really quite a nice thing to do as well.
Yeah, interesting. That's a very interesting subject that I really need to, study a little bit deeper about it. Very interesting.
Well, I'm about to start a course on teaching Jyotish.
That's amazing.
So for beginners, actually, the course is to introduce people to their own chart so that they can look at their own chart and see the patterns. But also the thing that I'm really doing is helping them to connect to the stars as well. So it's both looking at the stars as well as the map of the stars and integrating those into your practice.
Amazing. And is it going to be like a workshop kind of?
Probably be mainly online.
Okay.
But there'll be also personal interaction. So I'll introduce people to their own chart, and that will be a personal discussion about where things are. Once they've learned some of the principles, we'll then look at how it's playing out in that person's life. So they'll get that. And the idea is that that's basically a foundation that they can take away, not to continue learning if they want. And it may be that I do more later on, but it's also a basis for kind of understanding a part of yourself. That's what I'm aiming for.
That's lovely. And where people can find you?
At the moment, I'm calling it Guna Theta Yoga.
Okay.
And the gunas are the fluctuations of life, the three gunas. And atita is to be without. And it's there in the Gita where they says, Triguna Arjuna. It's basically be without the three gunas. It's about, realizing this stuff's going on, but go back to the source.
Yes.
And experiencing the source.
Yeah.
So it's called the Guna Theta Yoga. Guna Atita, Guna-Atita, Guna Theta.
That's your website, is that right?
Yeah, Guna Theta Yoga.
Perfect, that's good. And your classes, your yoga classes are going to be in person, is that
At the moment, I'm doing in person. I'm not sure whether I'm going to take that. Actually, I am planning possibility of doing one online as well.
Okay.
I'm already discussing with some people on that. But I might be going interstate and doing lessons, Maharishi Yoga Asanas in Western Australia or Queensland as well.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's good. I will put all the information in the show note for you if you are interested to get to know more about Richard and what he is offering. I'll put down all the information down in the show note for you. And thank you, Richard, for your time, for coming to the show. I enlightened so much. Thank you about everything. And I'm sure that all the listeners will get something that they can take in their everyday life. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a great pleasure to share some of my stories and also to chat about the chakras. And I wish you every success with your podcasts and your future journey.
Thank you.